Tabletop will start after the following messages.
Hey everyone, it's me, Nick, from the Tabletop Podcast, and today I'm here to tell you about a little Instagram account called Heroes of Evermore. If you're like me and always looking for new actual plays, this is a great one to consider. They do a live-streamed 5e game that is completely homebrewed and in person, so it's actually people around a table playing together. You can feel how much they like each other, and guess what? They do so much to get you involved. They really tear down the fourth wall so the audience feels like they're sitting there with them. Go check it out. It's Heroes of Evermore on Instagram. That's Heroes of Evermore on Instagram. And also, I hear tale that if you go to Amazon.com and type in Heroes of Evermore, you can find a self-published book about part of the campaign. So you should go check that out if that interests you as well. All right, everyone, I hope that you give Heroes of Evermore a chance, and I'll see you in the episode.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tabletop. It's October. It's spooky season. It's time for people to start playing a very specific type of game, which is the murder mystery. Crash, thunder, lightning. So what do you guys think? Murder mystery?
We should really get a Foley budget.
We should get some sound effects in here. First, I guess I should say, who is here with us today?
It's me, Franco, and the game is afoot.
All right, what about you?
I am the spiritual successor of Agatha Christie, Daniel.
All right, and finally?
Hi, I'm Mr. Body, Shade.
And I'm Nick, your host.
I'm Clue. Fucking play.
Franco being like, who's that?
No, wait, that guy was so gross in the movie, though.
Oh, Mr. Well, I meant like in the board game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, no, he was the movie. Everyone
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Movie, yeah.
I love that they were like, hey,
You
meet
just
this guy.
spoiled 1976's cult classic Clue.
85, and there's like 7 endings, so it's nothing spoiled.
Well, I love that they were like, hey, you see this guy? This guy sucks. And then it's like, hey, this guy, he's dead.
Yeah, and immediately dead.
But that's also very Agatha Christie, because, Murder on the Orient Express, that guy fucking sucked.
Sure, yeah.
So let's talk about murder mysteries, how to run them, playing in them, systems, all that kind of stuff, the stuff that you come to Tabletop for. Franco and I were starting to have a little bit of a tete-a-tete about murder mysteries before this. So why don't we start with Daniel and Shade? When you guys run a murder mystery, how do you go about it?
Well, I'd like to start with a murder.
Huh?
I'd start with a mystery.
There's been a murder.
There's been a murder.
I do declare he's dead.
More molasses, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So
I think we just wandered into the Kentucky Derby.
Or The Office.
it's a little garden in the midnight of good and evil.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
title was wrong. Midnight in the garden of good and evil.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of Southern murder. So you start with a murder.
Okay.
Yep.
Put some clues in there.
Yep.
And then let your players just live their best life.
Hey, man, this has been another great episode of Tabletop.
Yeah, brought to you by the Helios.
That's pretty much all you got to do.
I did it.
Another thing that
I'm the best.
One thing that I kind of think that is important to kind of say up front is that a murder mystery, in my opinion, is best done as a one-shot because of the ephemeral nature of memory. And also because... you can't really do a long-term murder mystery.
People will not remember clues you give them from one session to
Not
another.
at all.
Yeah.
Not at
Unless you framed it as like there's a murder and then the whole campaign is all the different things that happen like X-Files style.
That's,
like,
that's a good point. There are essentially 2 ways to do that. That's either, again, the one shot, which I think is probably going to be best, or this is a detective campaign.
Yeah.
And that's, that's a different thing where it's less about the murder. Like, that's just kind of in the background and other stuff also happens.
I mean, those episodes of The X-Files were the worst, though.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever wonder what the yearly body count is for all like the detective shows? Like, because every episode starts with a murder, and there's like 100 of them. So every week, at least 100 people die. and they all take place in like the same city.
I was thinking,
are these actual murder statistics?
I love how Daniel's like, every week 100 fictional characters die in murder mysteries.
So I was not thinking Law and Order, more Broadchurch, that kind of detective show.
Oh, in which there was one murder.
There was one murder.
And they did 8 episodes about it.
Correct. They had
Twin
about
Peaks
it.
or
Yeah,
something.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, because I was like thinking like Psych, and it's like, God, every week someone in this small town dies.
That's
Like,
true.
that's crazy.
It is, yeah.
In a town of 1,000, like over the course of all the seasons, like 70 people died. That's like a pretty high percentage.
This just made me think of a really funny thing that there was a group that I had forever ago, and a lot of the arcs were, or like the adventures were kind of based on mysteries. We were kind of trying to figure out like what's going on here, like just in general. And one of the players would always go to one of the NPCs and just say, "Who do you think did it?"
That's a great strategy.
It's like my favorite thing.
Yeah, but then you're basically asking the GM,
Yeah.
who do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of framed that way, but but really it's a great question because it's sort of like, who does the NPC think did it?
Right.
Which is like,
And the
that could be
NPC
anything.
probably has more of a sense of the facts than they
or
do.
is completely
no
clouded by
sense.
prejudice.
Yeah. So for a murder mystery, like Dan said, you do obviously need the murder and some clues and things like that. But I think that a murder mystery is most fun when we have one of two things happen for the players. One thing happened for the players, one thing happened for the characters. For the players, I'm a big I liked Columbo as a kid. And Murder, She Wrote and stuff
You've
like
actually
that.
made me hate Columbo.
Oh, I know I have. And I love it.
You see, the funny thing is...
Because he's playing a
Here's
Dexter
the
character
thing.
and he has a Columbo on his case.
Yeah. Right. I forgot.
Hashtag Waterdeep campaign.
Yeah,
Their
our
their
Waterdeep
campaign,
campaign.
yeah.
Keep up with the tabletop lore.
That's right, yeah. So anyway, no, for the players, it's sometimes fun to show the murder happen.
Yeah.
But like it's a masked figure or something like that. So like the players are like, okay, so someone has done this.
Like
but we get
Matlock
to,
used to open.
Yeah, correct. Matlock,
Yeah.
Murder, She Wrote, Columbo, Monk even. Yeah.
I mean, Columbo was dope because it's basically like an hour with the killer.
Yeah.
And then you know who the killer is. They're not masked at all. That's a
it
great
is.
show.
It's a really. It was
good show.
for its time. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah. It's a groundbreaking concept.
So I really think that's really fun for a player. But for characters, another way to go is that you have to immediately bottleneck them. You have to set them on the Orient Express. You have to be like, you are, in a blizzard and there's no getting out of this.
the rain
cabin.
is so heavy that you can't get out on the roads or whatever.
There's just not going to be another, like a tidal island or something.
Yeah.
Like the land bridge is washed over for the next 2 days or something.
That's something. And this is actually one of those ones where I don't think you need to outline that it's going to be a murder mystery. This is actually one of those games where I think it's better as a surprise.
Yeah.
Especially if you kill a beloved NPC. As
Oh,
Mr.
God, yes. Oh, Daniel.
Well, I guess...
Mr. Squirts, oh no!
But this is a thing that I wanted to talk about too, is like in a murder mystery, like most of TTRPGs deal with magic or superpowers in some way, and that can really make it hard to make a fun deductive murder mystery. And instead it's just like how you go about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to use Speak with Dead. Who killed you? Okay, great.
I didn't fucking see them. How about that?
Yeah.
Could I
I've never seen this person before in my life.
could I talk about the craft sequence for a second?
Yeah, of course.
They did a murder mystery in one of their books. I believe it's 3 parts dead. I could be wrong.
Spoiler alert.
But one of the... Oh, yeah, spoilers coming. I don't know which book, so guess. The one with the gargoyles. But someone had died, and they're like, oh, we could talk to this body. Oops, nope, I'll steal his face so that no one can talk to him, because now I have the part of him that
The
would
jaw
have
has
thoughts.
been taken away or whatever, so the body can't talk or something.
Right, no, but like the actual like physical aspect of their personality was removed. So it was basically just gore.
Yeah.
And then they could put the mask on like a mannequin and like bring it back to life later.
Yeah.
But like no one could, like, it was a way to stop the investigation.
Yeah.
So you can with magic, you can do some fucked up shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll second that because, if we are in a setting where, okay, we're all stuck here and the murderer's stuck here too, the murderer probably has access to magic too. There's no reason they can't have like a mild mind shielding ring or something like that. So detect thoughts does not work on them
But here's my point about this kind of stuff is like, if the party was smart enough to be like, I use detect thoughts and I'm just scanning everything, and then you're like, oh, there's one person who you can't have any thoughts coming out of. You know what I mean?
So, but I'll put another wrinkle on that. Okay, that person was possessed by a ghost or a devil at that time.
Spooky.
Add that element of like. Maybe, I mean, and that gets into the horror theme of it as well, like you said, spooky, of like, yeah, that person committed this murder, but they don't fucking know that they
That'd be a
committed this
cool way
murder.
to start a murder mystery by you, like Matlock style, having the killer and even having the party see the crime happen, and then the person's like, what? Where am I? And then it's like something else has just done.
Yeah.
this
I want to
murder.
throw another wrench into this. So the murderer, right, has the ring of shield, like detect shield thoughts. He's an actual professor, though, so he just has that ring of of shield thoughts because he needs to be able to way to keep his students from being able to read his thoughts.
Oh,
there's a lot of
so it
Daniel.
explains why he has
he's-
this.
Well, there's
a
a lot
te-
of great reasons to have that.
Oh, yeah.
He's a test proctor, and he's like, yeah, I gotta have this, or they're gonna know.
I fucking
test
love
proctor.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in a
Also,
school.
Professor Plum's the best Clue character.
Exactly.
Professors.
The most delicious.
Let's talk a little bit about what.
Just like in a learning annex or something, and then a murder happens during the test.
Yeah, the
And then
SATs.
it's like the okay, we're writing it.
Because, like, also got to
We're
find the
derailing this
motive.
episode.
Yeah, we got to find the motive of the murder, too. Like, that's another thing is solving the murder is fine. Okay, cool. This person killed this person. But why? That's more interesting.
We need to go backwards to answer your question better. If you're going to do a murder mystery, you need a murder, but you also need to plan motive, means, and opportunity of the killer.
Yeah. And then
you
a
need
bunch
all
of
the
red herrings
answers,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
You do need red herrings for why other people might have been there too. I think another cool
You
idea.
guys remember a pup named Scooby-Doo? They had that bully whose name was Red Herring. They blamed him every episode, but it was never him because he was the Red
That's
Herring.
fucking funny.
I did not remember that. That's fun.
I like the idea of, you know, like in most mystery shows where they'll be like, at the end they'll catch the person and be like, all right, you got me.
Yeah.
I want to like not do that.
I will never confess to a crime.
It's like, fucking prove it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then you're just
we
like,
just pulled a mask off of you. Fucking prove it.
How many of those episodes are there like, we need a confession?
Yeah.
Then you lose.
yeah, if you
immediately.
need a confession, then you need more proof, actually.
You
is what
need your
really need.
few good men moment where it's like, I called the thing. You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
You need to like push a character to do that. That's a fun.
Yeah.
But I think that you guys are right in like basically build the crime and then let loose elsewhere from there, I guess. But what we were kind of talking about was how do you unveil the momentum of as they're moving through
Right.
the horror, the murder mystery. And for me, I really like to say, okay, so like you said, there's a murder that happens. That's their first event, or they like come into a town and there's been something that's happened, and then they're like kind of roped into doing it. And then I like to say let them start investigating, and as soon as either they're like going in like a specific direction or they're like really committing to something, have a new event happen to provide more information. So like, like you hear the town bells ring, there's been another murder, everyone runs over, it's like, yeah, this one's fresh. You actually see that all of those animal markings, like the claws and everything on the last body, they're not on this one, but the stomach is still missing, like that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So they can like
I love all your examples are really specific.
well, hey, I'm an improviser, A to C, right? But it's just like, you know, that kind of stuff.
When did A to C become a thing? It was always yes and. Now I keep hearing A to C.
A to C is a more advanced improv
Yeah.
concept.
Whoa.
It's
Okay,
like
have I
go
gotten
to.
deeper into the circle?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Cool.
and is like, yes, we are at Starbucks, and I'm gonna buy a coffee. A to C is like, yes, we're at Starbucks, and that barista slept with my wife, like that kind of stuff.
So then you're exploring what the B is.
You're like
Yeah.
the B is implied, and you've already moved past it to C.
Yeah.
which is the thing.
I love it.
Tricky.
Yeah, so that's basically the idea. Anyway, back to murder mysteries.
I do think that because you both were in agreement about this. Event based.
But let's start fighting like we were before and misunderstanding each other. 'Cause that's good audio.
Right. Franco was saying it was Fanta, and he was saying it was 7-Up.
Yeah.
But
And
like,
it was.
I'm gonna take another approach to this because do you think that murder mysteries, let's just say it's any system you want here, is it better to have a murder mystery that is based around mechanics or a murder mystery that is based around narrative and role play?
Narrative and roleplay.
Yeah, for me, murder mystery, it has to be, because if you invest too heavily in mechanics, and I've done this before, I'm like, okay, on this body, they have a half an hour before like this degrades to a point they need a medicine check of 20 or whatever. Almost 100% of the time, your characters are either going to, A, totally miss what you meant by a description, B, they will immediately take like some odd factoid that you threw in for flavor and be like, this is the most important thing. So like building those like the mechanical bits of it are just never going to work out in your favor just because everything always goes
Wait,
off
you mean the little... I feel like you just described narrative things.
He prefers the narrative.
Oh, you
Yeah.
prefer the narrative things that the players could misinterpret.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
more fun. Oh, okay. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's why we misunderstand each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, I feel like it's like, oh, you failed your medicine check. That means you were just spelunking in their intestines or some shit. Sorry.
You pull out a surgeon's watch.
You're like, yeah, you've ruined the body, and there's no like the coroner's not even here yet, and you decided to take a crack at it, and you fucked it up.
Yeah.
It's like that's so annoying.
I've never broken ribs this way before, but let's see if we can crack them open.
But what if you saved it? It's like, oh, you fucked up your medicine check. You have the information, but you don't have no way of proving it now. That could still,
That's an
like, you can
interesting way
still
to do it.
fail them forward.
Yeah, but I think failing forward in that way is more fun to do like in a narrative way.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like, okay, what body part are you gonna pull at? Like what are you gonna investigate about the spleen or whatever?
Yeah.
Or
You go in for the spleen, you get the bladder. You are covered in piss.
the number of times that has happened to me.
I guess like, yeah, because it's just like knowing, I don't know, like the idea of like keeping. It's like, oh, roll to see whether you know what a bladder, how you can tell the difference between a bladder and a spleen. It's like, you either know it or you don't. Like, would your character know it? Are they a doctor?
Yeah.
If so, yes. If not, no.
Your insides look very much the same to other insides. And they're all covered in blood. And
This is a great...
I don't understand how doctors do it. It's gross in there.
Yeah.
And it all looks the same. When you can't see anything, a lot of it is feeling it out.
Yep. Hey, shout out to the surgens out there.
Shout out to the
Thank
surgeons
you.
in the
You
world.
you're just the best. Thank you.
I don't know what you're doing, but thank God you're doing it.
But I think that one thing that I like to do as well is you have the events that are structured so narratively they can like really delve into the mystery. But even if they take the complete wrong direction or whatever, I think that it's totally fine to, have those like more clues or more information come up in sort of an ad hoc way. Like you were saying, Franco, if someone's like, who do you think the murderer is?
Yeah.
And then you as a GM can say, okay, this character is going to know this much that maybe I can like reset a path or place doubt in their mind or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
I think we should also like highlight a special issue. In a murder mystery novel or detective show, it has to end with the criminal getting caught. But in a tabletop RPG, remember, failure is part of the story sometimes. So your players, like, you don't need to feel like you have to have your players solve it. They could get the wrong guy or not help at all and get no guy or person. God, sexism. It's always it's
prevalent
the
in our
false hydra of life. But yeah, so maybe they do just like.
It's usually a guy, though.
Just let it.
I mean, yeah,
murder
guys
statistics,
are usually
they say a certain thing. Yeah,
guys are bad.
But the thing about the thing that inspired it,
Daniel, sorry.
The thing that I was kind of thinking about as you were saying that, Daniel, was I think it'd be so interesting if you did have them catch the wrong guy or something, and then later on like maybe in a few sessions, another murder happens. It's the same MO, and they're like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
thought we got that
Just like in The
person.
Witcher.
yeah, it's
Skipping over that right now.
that would be like that could also be a lot of fun. So you like don't feel like they have to always end with the mask reveal moment, but I think that most do.
Even if you do end with the other thing that is fun to do with that, because like when you're watching a movie or like a TV show and they're like, oh, we're really close to it now, and it's like, no, you're not. I know you're not. I know.
we're
I know
only
how this
15
works.
minutes in.
Yeah, we're only 30 minutes into the show. We're only halfway through the season.
Yeah.
I know it's not that person. And with a TTRPG, it's like, oh, you could solve it early.
Yeah.
Home for dinner.
Yeah. That's a really interesting thing. Like I'm about to do, it's a mystery. It's not a murder mystery. It kind of is a murder mystery actually. But I'm running for you and Steven soon, Candle Cove.
I was gonna say
that's
got
definitely
some
a
murder mystery
mystery
stuff going.
Like part of it is
Tomorrow
like,
or last month.
depending on when you're listening to this. But like part of it in the design is that you are given 5 days to investigate, but you can leave at any time and you can stay past the 5 days if you want. But there's like things that will happen in every case.
Yep.
So I think that that's a lot of fun too, is to like put that out there.
Here's a question. What if you're a DM and you're going to say, you tell everyone, hey, I'm going to run a murder mystery next week, kind of prepare for that. And one of your players comes to you and says, I would like to be the murderer.
And we should answer that right after these messages.
Do you like nerdy stuff? Of course you do. Want to see someone make that stuff, but smaller? Sculpting Minis, tabletop terrain, props, puppets, and tutorials, a crafting channel for all things nerdy. Join me over on YouTube at Niche Crafts, where I make stuff about stuff.
One more thing. Welcome back to Tabletop. We're here talking about murder mysteries. We left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger with Daniel talking about what if a player wants to be
forgot his
the
question already.
murderer.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember, Daniel. But tell us a little bit more. Like, has this happened to you in real life, or is this just a suggestion?
I want to be a murderer.
Yeah, Franco's come to me a lot of times like, I would really like to murder someone. Will you run that for me?
That's a joke.
I mean, Sean kind of did do that, sort of.
Sean wanted to betray the party.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, different than I want
Fucking
to
rude.
murder someone.
Yeah.
Because
narc.
so I see in another situation with Valen, the character I'm playing, he's murdered several people.
For sure.
But no
loves
one's
murder.
investigated those until very recently. To my chagrin.
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 Okay, I was not sure what you were
we got
trying to
there.
say.
I was
Yeah,
like,
chagrin.
wow, you're about to charge in somewhere?
Edit that out.
Character generation.
No.
What?
No,
What's happening?
nothing. We're just goofing, dude.
No, what was I saying?
Valen's murdered a lot of people.
Oh, so Valen has murdered people, but the players in that party have never like, oh, we should investigate who murdered it because it's never been important.
Because
But
the
your
characters have never also noticed, or like mostly have never noticed.
right,
Yeah.
Also fair. So, like, what do you do when your player wants to actually be the person who the other players are investigating?
We've had this happen before in our group in a different way, and in my opinion, I've even run this once, and I think that it can work if the player is like, I'm super interested in this. Like, I want to do this.
You definitely can't put it on a player.
But you can't you can't make them the murderer later on or whatever. Be like, oh, it turns out your memory was wiped and you're the murderer.
Yeah,
or whatever.
even
It's
though
like,
I legitimately said you could do that to an NPC earlier, like they were possessed, they didn't know. You definitely shouldn't do it for a player.
yeah, because it just removes player agency and then they get mad.
But I would say if a player came to me and did that, I would 100% in that moment go, look at my schedule and my availability to figure this out and make sure I'm having a discussion about, okay, what does this mean for your character afterwards? Like if this is a long running campaign, if this is a one shot, that's a different matter. Then I would see how easily I could work in like secret werewolf mini games into this because that will take off a lot of the pressure on me. And
Secret Werewolf card game.
It's very fun.
If you again, tabletop lore hashtag.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a tabletop game.
Yeah,
just a table card game.
I also think that it's just, for me, if a player wants to be a part of this, I don't know, because for a mystery, they're fairly well-tuned machines, And if you have somebody else having agency in the telling of the story, you either have to be exactly on the same page, which will probably alert the other players to what is happening. If like someone's like, wait, so what do you see over there? And then there's like silence for a bit, rustling of papers, then go, oh, yeah, I find this or whatever. And it's like a pre-planned like thing.
I mean, that though has to be, so like, that's like playing, I have played through Curse of Strahd 5 times or something like that, read the book frontward to backward, like at 5's a big exaggeration. But I know that campaign. Every time I play in it, I 100% do not go like, well, I know I'm supposed to do this, so I'm going to do this. There's like one exception where I think I kind of flubbed something because I was like, I know that I just need to threaten this guy, and I think that this character would feel in a threatening mood at this moment, so I leaned into that. That's the only time I can ever think of. You just have a player that is like otherwise playing dumb. Like that's...
But the thing is that a murderer in those cases would also be trying to sabotage the investigation, which becomes difficult because then it's like, like I go up and I investigate, and then like I roll dice, and then it's like as a GM you're like, okay, what do you find, or like what do you say?
You flip this. Okay. That player, if they succeed on their investigation check, they're actually rolling something like, they're going to tell you what the resulting number is, right? They need to be rolling like a sleight of hand or a deception check, actually. And you two know that as the GM and the player. This is obviously 5e based when we're talking here. But if they succeed, then you give something that is a red herring as a reward. If they fail, you give the actual clue.
That's interesting. But then it also kind of functions both like the same both ways, because if you roll a very low number and then you give the actual information, then that it also, the party's gonna be like, okay, well, that's useless.
Well, no, but you can just quote unquote open roll here, right, and say like, it was a DC 5. This was make it, just say it as a DM, like this is, it's very apparent this is the thing.
And this brings us back to a problem that I have with like dice systems in general. When your players roll under a 10, they usually give up on whatever they're trying to do.
Right.
It's like, oh, I rolled low. It's like, I wish there was a way to be like, hey, just give me a second to react to your number. Don't be like, oh, I rolled low, so obviously I failed. And like any information you give me is going to be like, because it just means I'm not going to give you as much information. But just like, if you're rolling an insight and you I rolled a 6, so I guess I trust them. It's like, you don't have to. You just don't get any more information. Which always is like, it throws me off, the whole number scale system that the players can like react to before you get a chance to.
This is a great point, which is that, as we always talk about, D&D might not be the best system for your game, depending on what kind of murder mystery you're going.
Right.
One of our number one fan, Jackie, gave us a really interesting thing to talk about someday, and I want to mention it now because it's a really interesting system, but it's called Blood on the Clock Tower, where it's like a 1 to 20 player murder mystery game, and you get like tokens that say like if you're good or if you're evil, and the whole thing is that like someone in the community was hung on the clock tower at like midnight the night before, and then there's like a demon that is starting to like sow distrust.
Spoiler alert.
Well, like it's from the top. It's like there is a demon, and then the thing is like the people with the good tokens are all trying to do what we're talking about of solving the mystery and like working together. But then the evil folks are trying to like make sure that the demon gets away with it. So, and like at each stroke of midnight, somebody is killed. So it's like a very interesting kind of like mafia style game. So there are different systems that are like really fun that people should explore. I would suggest if you're running one for this Halloween season, Blood on the Clock Tower, very cool system. And we should definitely do a review sometime.
Yeah, I would love to play that. Could definitely do a one shot around that. I've also heard good things about Gumshoe. It's a TTRPG that is on the ever-growing list of games that I will one day play.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of other really good ones that like systems that would lend itself for this type of play. City of Mist is one where it is it does have supernatural elements to your characters and stuff like that, but it is built to be like a noir game. So it's like all of it revolves around that kind of thing. And also you could probably hack a monster of the week pretty easily because a murder mystery is essentially a monster of the week.
I think monster of the week is
It fits pretty well.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, you can't use, your machine gun as much in this one than
Yeah, I guess
some
like
other games.
Yeah, I guess like murder mystery sort of implies that it's like a person, like one person murdered another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can still do the monster of the week that way.
I once
This
made
person's a vampire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a vampire is like a really great monster to use this in because, like, depending on what kind of vampire you're using, they can be very like normal human weak, except they feed on blood and need to kill people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
What is the metabolism of a vampire? How often do they have to feed?
Vampires are fictional.
Like,
so
they have to kill every day or every week.
Daniel completely ignores you. I think that
in my experience, it's monthly.
Monthly?
Landlords.
Hey, landlords.
Franco.
Yeah, TK.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that depending on what kind of murder mystery you do, there are systems that are super good for it, and then there are ones that are less good for it. And I think that maybe we, as always, encourage people to get out of their comfort zone. Have that one episode where you take another system and put it down.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you could actually probably also... I wonder if you could like do a 10 candles sort of thing and have candles in front of people, and like as candles go out for their like they try to investigate, and if they fuck up the investigation somehow, they put a candle out, and when all the candles go out, they're the next murder victim.
You could design a game that is like something like that.
Yeah.
Like that could be cool.
I'll call it 10 clues.
10 clues.
You can make up your own games and put candles in them all you want.
Well, and another system that we've talked about here on the podcast, psychic trash detectives.
Yes, that's a great
that's
one
true.
too. Yeah.
trash.
Shout out to Scripted Games. And this is actually available to purchase. I've been seeing on their Instagram that it is printed and published.
Hell
So
yeah!
it's around.
Congrats, guys.
Yeah,
And pubbed.
and another thing I would say is like when building these sort of campaigns, build in some contingencies if your folks are gonna fuck up, as they will. Like I once ran one for Daniel, Shade, and Jackie, where it was based off a book I read where they were living the same day and they had 3 days to get to the end of the mystery, but they didn't have any memories when they started. And like from day to day, they would remember what they had learned, so they could essentially go through the mystery 3 times.
Daniel
to try to
really
get it right.
hated having to have
fought
his,
against this premise so hard.
and then made a campaign about it.
Yeah, that is true. It's like the thing that you described to me, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't like that. I don't think. I don't like the idea of like losing my memory every day and then like coming back in or whatever. And then Danny's like, I'm gonna make a whole campaign,
A year-long campaign
based on the premise that you just forget.
No, mine's
things.
different.
Love you.
Yeah, and mine wasn't that they lost memories each day. It was just that they came in at the start with no memory of who they were and everything, and so that they were basically going through the day 3 times, and they could like when they came into the day a second time, they could be different characters, and it was randomized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I just give you guys new memories. Mine's completely different.
Yeah, more complicated.
so you have 3 lives stacked on top of each other right now.
Like a deck of cards.
Yeah.
So many memories. Extra memories.
Your head is bursting with them. So are there any final thoughts on murder mysteries?
Yeah, there's another game that I picked up that looks fun, and I'd like to run it. It's called Witchburner by Luka Rejek. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's you're looking for a witch, and it's good, and I won't say any more than that.
Okay. Is it a board game or a TTRPG?
No, it's a module for it's agnostic.
That's awesome.
And speaking of that, I also picked up Ultraviolet Grasslands, and it looks fucking good as hell. It has nothing to do with murder mysteries.
I also
really
picked up
want it.
Ultraviolet Grassland.
Because he saw it at my house, and he's like, I'm going to buy that.
I ordered it immediately. It's at my house now. So that's
beautiful.
happening.
All right. Well, I hope that this helps people understand murder mysteries, and if they want to build one, that they can kind of follow some of the tenets we talked about today. Otherwise, Tabletop is a member of the Helios Network. That's right, a regular podcast network for regular people. We're part of the network with a lot of other shows that you should check out, like Banter and Such, a culture and movies podcast where the hosts Owen and Brando just talk about all of the nostalgic stuff that all of us have in our brains from when we were were kids. It's one of my favorite podcasts on the network. Very fun, very funny, and talks about really interesting, cool movies that sometimes I've completely forgotten about. So go check out that podcast as well, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Tabletopped. Bye.
Sorry.
One more thing.